Yes guys, welcome back to Football Paradise. It very much is a paradise today guys. I'm here at my favourite park, which is right opposite the Cheltenham Town Football Club, and we've got a slush on the go. But it might be fun in the sun, but we need to get to business because this is the yearly predictions, the Zweite Bundesliga, Bundesliga 2, where the club I support, Bochum, play. Will they get promoted this year? Well, I'm going to share with you my predictions. Now, last season, a lot of you thought I was absolutely crazy, ridiculous, for predicting that Wolfsburg would be promoted to the Bundesliga. And I'm not one to say I told you so, but it did give me great delight when Wolfsburg did get promoted after all the abuse I got from that prediction last year. The logic you guys had was that Wolfsburg had lost a lot of their team. Now, with that logic, I've obviously looked at Transfermarkt to make, bear with me one moment. It's frozen solid. That's better. I've obviously used Transfermarkt. Now we're going to be looking at how much each club in Germany's second division has spent, how much they've received from selling players. So obviously the net profit, loss, but also other things, form, and just generally that gut feeling that you get. Because even though I saw that Wolfsburg last year had lost most of their team, they'd really built something over the years. They were consistent in their plan. You know, if we were to compare it to an English club, I guess like Brighton keeps selling their players, but they're always doing fairly well. They're consistent in the Premier League. With all that said, guys, are you ready for my 26-27 predictions? Obviously, I'm looking to get out to Germany as much as possible this season, but as we said last year, it cost a lot of money. So we are accepting sponsorships, so please support the channel and check out today's sponsor. Now we will crack on with a video in a moment, but we have the pleasure of a sponsorship. Oh yes, Oxford Natural have sponsored Rise Football Paradise, but I'm here to tell you why both Optimum Day and Optimum Night might well work for you. Now I'm not going to give you any broken promises. You know I like to keep things transparent and honest on the channel, but both of these products, especially in the football community, have really started to get people noticing. You've got Optimum Day, which helps with everyday energy, keeping down the cravings and keeping you on track. Trust me, when you're traveling across the country, sometimes overseas, walking miles around football grounds and editing late into the night, you need that extra bit of fuel. Then you've got Optimum Night, which is all about the recovery, getting a proper night's sleep and letting your body reset so that you're ready for the next match day journey. It's simple, nothing crazy, but people are clearly getting results with it. When you start seeing names that we all know across the game, like Michael Owen, an England legend who's 35 pounds down. Then you've got Robbie, the Don from AFTV. He's lost over 80 pounds. But then there's people outside the football niche. You've got an immigration worker called Anita. She's over 44 pounds down. There's Linda, a business executive, more than 50 pounds down. You've really got to start taking notice. So I've been hearing about this product more and more from the lads in the industry. It's my time to give it a go. Maybe you should do too, because as I said, football fans aren't necessarily the healthiest, but as we get older, we have to start taking care of ourselves, don't we? So follow the QR code on screen, follow the link in the description below, and make sure you use the code RYFP for a whopping 70% off your first order. Thanks again to Oxford Natural for sponsoring today's video. So yes, the neck is still incredibly stiff. It's not a fiddle for an insurance claim, guys, as some of you have joked. I am literally filming this in the park because it is right next to my physio. But again, the physio can wait because this is more important. Let's crack on. Number 18. Now again, I do feel bad because I did make a bad prediction last year. I'm pretty sure I predicted that Greuther Fürth would finish bottom, and they didn't. They managed to escape the relegation zone. Unfortunately, Greuther Fürth, I'm going once again. I've not got a problem with Greuther Fürth. It's not a deep hatred that I'm dying for them to be relegated. Completely innocent prediction. So they've spent 600,000 euros. Obviously, all of this is going to be in euros, guys. And they've received 2.93 million euros, which puts them in a profit of 2.33 million euros, which you'd think, oh, okay, if you're an accountant, if you're balancing the books, being in profit is obviously a good thing. When it comes to football, or us football fans, it's not a good thing, is it really? You want the clubs to spend money to compete, and when you've been struggling down there at the bottom, so that's your first one. Nummer 18, Greuther Fürth. Next one, again, maybe it's an obvious one, but is it? Because I've actually avoided putting the two newly promoted teams from the Dritte Liga on the list quite yet. I've actually gone for number 17 being Eintracht Braunschweig. Now, Eintracht Braunschweig we're actually going to see in their opening game because we're going to be in Magdeburg. They're obviously playing Magdeburg away. They've spent 450,000. They've received nothing, so obviously they're in a deficit of 450,000 euros, which again isn't a bad thing, as I mentioned, but I don't think it's quite enough. Really need a shake-up. I watched Bochum away to Eintracht Braunschweig last year, and they were poor. There we go. Eintracht Braunschweig in 17th. Okay, so I referenced those newly promoted teams from the 3rd division. I've got one in 16th, and again, it's a club I do have a bit of a soft spot for. It's not a hard spot like these guys. But Energie Cottbus, we went there last season before, I can't remember, but just because they've got lovely fans doesn't mean they're going to have an easy ride this year in the 2nd Bundesliga. I've got them 3rd from bottom. They've not spent any money, they've not received any money, so again, a complete zero when it comes to transfers in and out. I think they've picked up some free transfers and obviously people have gone back to their parent clubs and stuff. But I felt like they do need a little bit more investment if they're gonna really escape that relegation zone. So there we go, Energie Cottbus. I think they'll probably win the relegation playoff and just stay in the Zweite Bundesliga. Let's get back in that zone, guys, because I've got another newly promoted team, the champions of the Dritte Liga 25-26, of course, VfL Osnabrück. Now, I've seen people say that Osnabrück Stadium is one of the most English stadiums in all of Deutschland. I don't know what they mean by that. Is there fighting and skinheads outside? I think they mean the style of the ground. So it would be interesting, actually. Maybe we do check out an away game against Osnabrück, not too far from Bochum, but I've got them in 15th. I think they're going to be safe. I just don't think they're going to be too far away from the drop. Now, unlike Cottbus, they have spent a little bit of money. They spent 300,000 euros, but they've got no money in. But again, as I said, it's not a bad thing. So minus 300,000 euros. Number 14, I've got Magdeburg. We said we're going to be there for the first weekend of Bundesliga 2. And I don't think it's going to be easy for Magdeburg either. They have spent, though, 700,000 euros. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, 700,000 euros. They've received 600,000 euros. So again, minus 100,000 euros. But again, Magdeburg struggled last year. I really did think they were going to be relegated for a long period of time. They do need a little bit more investment. Let's not forget, they're the first ever East German club to win European gold, winners of the Cup Winners' Cup. They've got a rich history, and I've always got a bit of a soft spot for those Ostdeutschland clubs as well. I've got a bit of a fascination with the DDR, the former country of East Germany. So secretly, I really hope Magdeburg do better than finishing 14th. Okay, so we mentioned Nuremberg and their fan friendship with Schalke, probably the biggest or most active fan friendship in Germany. Of course, we've got one with Bayern, which I think is technically older. And I've not got Nuremberg this low because of that friendship. But hear me out, guys. There's always going to be an underperformer. And obviously the 2nd division in Germany is so tight. Literally points will separate top to mid-table. It's always really, really close. And just looking at the figures, though, they've spent 675,000, whereas they've sold or got in 8.9 million. Yes, they're in an 8.23 or something million profit. But again, is that going to get them anywhere near getting back to the Bundesliga? No, it's not. And my good friend Ben, he's going to be pissed off at that prediction. Nuremberg fan who grew up in America. But I'm sorry, Ben, I think Nuremberg will struggle. Of course, they started the season last year incredibly badly, rock bottom. We rock up there and they go and, you know, play like they're Real Madrid and their season gets back on track. But I do feel like another slightly lower mid-table finish for Nuremberg in 13th. Again, it's really difficult because, as I said, such small margins separate clubs in what many consider to be the best or the most competitive league in Europe. Now, in 12th place, I've actually got Karlsruhe. Now, Karlsruhe, again, is a club, a ground I do want to visit. We played them the last game of the season last year, but we didn't really have anything to play for. And by that point, I've spoken about it loads already. You know, I was a little bit skint when it comes to the YouTube channel, so we didn't get to experience Karlsruhe. I've got them in 12th. Karlsruhe are normally mid-table to upper mid-table. They've spent 950,000. They've received 3.5 million, so they're in a profit of 2.55 million euros. Nothing else to really say about Karlsruhe. 12th. So I have a feeling that my next prediction is going to be the Wolfsburg prediction of 26-27. I did make a similar prediction last year because I've actually got 11th place, Hertha BSC Berlin. Now Hertha obviously started quite badly. They pulled things back and they kind of finished around the same place Bochum did. A lot of people had them as favourites to be promoted, including the bookies. But Ulreich, with his mystic Meg ball, his crystal ball, what's the word I'm trying to say, with his incredibly good prediction last year, said no, that won't happen. And I'm making the same prediction, only this time I've got data to back it up. Right in front of me right now, I can see that Hertha have spent zero, nil. They've spent nothing, whereas they've received 25.5 million euros. Now we must say that a large chunk of that, 9 million euros of that came from a sale of 16-year-old Kenneth Eichhorn to Leverkusen. Of course, they've sold Fabian Riese, I'm not sure the pronunciation, for 8 million euros to Wolfsburg. We'll get onto them in a moment. But I feel like they're selling a lot of prospects, a lot of good, solid players in the team. It didn't quite work out last year, so maybe they thought, you know what, let's cash in again. And maybe it's just fighting talk from me, because we'll play them. We'll be there on Friday when we play Hertha. I'm going to be eating my own words if Hertha win the game on Friday. If you think I'm absolutely mad, guys, let us know in the comments below. If you agree with any of my predictions, let us know in the comments below. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of the things I'm saying are somewhat hypocritical because, again, I said that I'd predicted Wolfsburg to go up despite losing most of their team, including their manager last season, and then I go and predict that Hertha are going to struggle because they've lost some good players. I think it's more about the culture of the club behind the scenes. I feel like Hertha is a different example to Wolfsburg. Anyway, hear me out. I've got Darmstadt in 10th. They spent 1.43 million. They've received 10.7 million, so obviously a profit of 9.28 million. Now, obviously, Darmstadt had a fairly good season last year. They did look like they were going to be pushing for promotion, and they absolutely whooped us in Spieltag 1 on the first game week of last season, 4-1. But I do feel like they're the sort of team to drop back down. That's why I've got them in mid-table 10th. Again, sold a lot of players. Maybe it's going to affect them. Who knows? It's such a hard league to predict. Heidenheim. Now this one might shock you. Again, relegated from the Bundesliga, terrible season last year. You'd think Heidenheim being a newly relegated club, they might be fighting near the top. But I actually feel like Heidenheim are going to do exactly the same as what we did last season. Last year we finished in 9th. They spent 2.5 million. They've received 4.7 million, so a 2.2 million in profit. Heidenheim, they've had their run. They were the Wolfsburg of 3 or 4 years ago. I feel like now they're on a bit of a come down. They've got to reset, restructure, and then go for it again next year. Again, similar to us. No offense, Heidenheim. Yes, guys, on to the business end. This is the top 8. Now, again, I don't make these predictions for shock value, just for entertainment. These are predictions I genuinely think will happen. If last year proved that anything can happen in this league, I think anything can happen once again. Fortuna Düsseldorf got relegated with Preußen Munster. Maybe Munster was a bit more predictable, but nobody would have predicted, as we said, Wolfsburg, Paderborn. And yes, I did feel like it was going to be Schalke's time to go back to the big leagues. But I've got Arminia Bielefeld, number 8. And I know a lot of Bochum fans won't like that one. Jesus, it's got a little bit noisy. A rival of VfL Bielefeld. A lot of people say this place doesn't exist, but it definitely does, because they are number 8 on the list. Now, Bielefeld has spent 1.25 million. They've received 150,000, so they're minus 1.1 million. I like that, Bielefeld. Well done, spent a bit of money. And again, in context, 1 million is a lot more spent in the German second division than it would be in the English second division, the championship. That's not bad. When a league is building on free transfers, Bielefeld has spent a bit of money, as have Dynamo Dresden. Oh yes, number 7. They've spent 3.25 million, Dresden. They've received 2 million, so therefore they're in a debt or deficit of 1.25 million. Dynamo Dresden, somewhat controversial. They like to smash up some places wherever they go, or is that more Hansa Rostock? I don't know. But I've always had a little bit of a soft spot again for Dresden. Whether it's the kit, I don't know, or whether it's the fact that they're just crazy bastards. So, number 6, again, got many a friend up in Kiel. We've got Holstein Kiel in number 6. Their numbers don't look quite as impressive on Transfermarkt, but I do feel like they've got a team that isn't too bad. Obviously, again, they've struggled for a period of time. It did look like they might be relegated last season from the Zweite Bundesliga. They spent 550,000, they've received 515,000, so they're minus 35,000. Chumps change peanuts. And obviously, I do hope genuinely that Holstein Kiel have a better season this season. Number 5. Now we will be watching their first game. We mentioned, of course, Bochum gegen Hertha on the Freitagabend, the Friday night. We mentioned that we're going to be watching Magdeburg against Eintracht Braunschweig, but we've also secured tickets for Wolfsburg against Kaiserslautern. Now, we did Kaiserslautern away last year. You guys seem to enjoy that video. A great fan base, the Red Devils, of course, same nickname as Manchester United. I've got Kaiserslautern in 5th. Kaiserslautern have spent 1.75 million euros. They've received 50,000, so they're minus 1.7 million. Again, credit to Kaiserslautern for taking a bit of a risk, a bit of a gamble. Okay, so it's a little bit noisy on Wadden Road, the home of Cheltenham Town Football Club. This was the fan park where they showed all the England games, and they've actually got a new sign over there as well. Anyway, as we head down the alley, we've got the top 4 to do. Now again, my bias is obviously going to come out because you've not heard us mentioned in the video quite yet. Now, part of me, my head was saying number 4 should be Bochum, but unfortunately my heart took over, and I've got number 4 as being FC St. Pauli. Of course, St. Pauli went down from the Bundesliga last year, and if we just look again at their numbers, they've spent nothing, they've received nothing, so 0-0. There's nothing really to say about St. Pauli. Obviously, they've got a fairly strong squad as it is, but again, can't be too strong because they got relegated. So there we go, 4th St. Pauli, which therefore, you can probably guess from what I've just said, I've got my club in 3rd. Again, my heart was trying to push them further, but the numbers really don't back up that decision, because again, if we look at the transfer market numbers, we've spent nothing, 0. Obviously, we've had numerous free transfers. We've got our own CR7, Christian Rasmussen from Fortuna Düsseldorf. But again, Fortuna Düsseldorf, as we said, got relegated last year. So how good is CR7 going to be coming to us on a free transfer? I don't know. We've received an income of 10.3 million euros. Again, 10 million of that money came from Lens, who went to Hoffenheim. So again, losing good players. But I do feel like some of the players who have gone, who are now free transfers and have not found a club or they've retired, like Vogt, I did feel like they let us down a little bit last year. Again, nothing personal. I just couldn't connect with the club the same way I did the year before when we got relegated. It's not just about success, connecting with your team. I connected with that team in the Bundesliga despite struggling and being relegated. So I really hope to connect to the club once again. And in typical Bochum fashion, of course, I think we're going to finish 3rd and then win the playoff and get back to the Bundesliga. As a reminder, if you're new, 3rd place will play 3rd from bottom in the Bundesliga in a relegation playoff. They call relegation like a playoff, like promotion relegation. It's a little bit different in Germany. My bias is out the way now because we've got the top 2 leaving 2 clubs. I've got Hanover in 2nd. They've spent 4.6 million. They've received 4.25 million, which leaves them at a deficit of 350,000 euros. Hanover are always there or thereabouts near the top of the Zweite Bundesliga. They tend to go top around Christmas. They tend to look like they're going to make a serious challenge for Bundesliga promotion, but then they just fall back towards the end. I do feel like this time it's not going to be the same. I feel like the landscape is a little bit weaker compared to last year. And I know, again, we had some small teams get promoted, but I feel like it is going to be Hanover's time and they will get promoted. And we might be watching, actually, the Braunschweig v Hanover game at the end of October. So make sure you do check that one out, because that's a really, really fierce derby. And that, of course, leaves a predictable 1st place being VfL Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg, of course. A lot of people are talking, including myself, about how much money they've spent. Again, this is going to sound completely crazy compared to the other numbers we've mentioned. 22.7 million euros they've spent. And I did see a graphic that Wolfsburg has spent the same amount as like the whole of the rest of the league, but we need to put that into context because they have received 22.75 million euros, which actually puts them in a profit of 50,000. So again, they're in a net profit. They spent all that money, but they have received the money as well. And again, 22.7 million euros is equivalent in pounds to around 19.4 million, which again, I guess is fairly impressive for a 2nd division club. But compare that to the Championship, the English 2nd division, it's a bit of a stark contrast, isn't it? And this as well is why, again, a lot of English people don't know that Wolfsburg, Leverkusen are quite disliked because they don't have to comply with the 50+1 rule. Obviously, Wolfsburg being backed by Volkswagen, the car company, Leverkusen Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, and a lot of German football fans feel like they have an unfair advantage compared to the other clubs. And when you look at the numbers, when you look at this, you can kind of understand why they're saying that. I'm not going to be rude about Wolfsburg though, because we're going to be there in person, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the club beyond that dislike, seeing the club for what it really is as an Englishman who's, you know, been watching German football for over 2 years now. I'm really looking forward to that. They've obviously bought Fabian Rees. We'd say Rees, but Germans would say Rieser. They pronounce the E. They bought him from Hertha, as a reminder, for like 8 million. So they've added some good players to their team. Do you agree with me, guys? Are Wolfsburg, Hanover, and potentially Bochum going to get promoted back to the Bundesliga this season? Or again, am I absolutely bloody crazy? Let me know in the comments below. Also comment who are going to be your top 3 and also who could potentially be relegated. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts, because again, we might look crazy, but come the end of the season, it could be, sorry mate, let the bike pass, there we go. It could be anything, couldn't it, in the world's, or at least Europe's, most crazy football league. Bring it on, and I'll see you Friday.